everybody, today we are going to be learning about King David and his house and God's house. King David was an amazing man of God. He had been a lowly shepherd, and God had lifted him up to be the king of Israel. He was an excellent soldier who defeated many enemies. He was a musician who sang and played the harp and other musical instruments. He also wrote songs for God that we can find in the book of the Bible called the Psalms. But King David was also an architect. That means someone that builds and designs buildings. And David designed a beautiful temple for God. This is how it happened. One day, David said to himself, "Here I am living in this beautiful place made of cedar wood, but God's house is a tent." He was right. The church of the Israelites was a tent called a tabernacle. God had commanded that they use a tent back when they were traveling through the wilderness with Moses as their leader. A tent made sense because they could put it up and take it down when they were moving from place to place. But now they were all settled into the promised land, and all their enemies had been defeated. David thought it was time to build God a beautiful house of his own, a temple. With God's help, David drew a plan. Pages and pages of plans for a temple with many rooms, with porches and pillars and huge doors, with an altar and table and lampstands, and everything made with the most expensive materials like gold and silver and bronze and cedar. Do you know what God said then? He said, "No, David, you will not build this temple." But then God quickly added a yes. He said, "Your son Solomon will use these plans to build the temple." And then God added another yes. He said, "David, your house, your family, your kingdom is going to last forever." What God meant is that David's family would be the family of the greatest king, the eternal king, Jesus. David was so happy. He said, "Who am I, Lord? And what is my family that you would give us this blessing? Here, I wanted to build a house for you, and instead, you will build a house for me. Thank you for your promise that the house of David, this family, this kingdom, will never end." David was so thankful that he wrote more psalms for the people to sing when they would go to the temple one day. And we still sing these psalms because we're so thankful for all of the blessings that God has given us through Jesus. In what way would David's house, his kingdom, and his family last forever? Through Jesus, our Savior and King, because Jesus was born from the house of David. So as you hang the harp on your Jesse tree, here's an Advent promise that I want you to remember. King David was a brilliant musician, soldier, architect, and king. From King David's house came our Savior and King, Jesus. Thanks so much for listening, kiddos, and I will see you again tomorrow.